Can you imagine being called out by the entire European Union? That's what's happening to Elon Musk as disinformation surges on his platform formerly known as Twitter.
You're tuned in to Hear the Web, brought to you by us, Tom and Lily. On today's show, we dive into the murky waters of digital disinformation and the EU's latest actions against the tech behemoth. To set the stage, a new report from the EU has declared that what is now called X has the highest ratio of disinformation posts of all the leading social media platforms. Sounds intense, doesn't it?
Indeed it does, Lily. The Digital Services Act, enforced in August, is designed to curtail fake news and Russian propaganda. However, Twitter, now called X, has distanced itself from the Act's code of practice. In response, Vera Jourova, the European Commissioner responsible for implementing the new anti-disinformation code, has issued a stern warning.
Yes, she threw down the gauntlet, telling Musk that leaving the code doesn't exempt him from meeting its requirements and that they will be watching the platform closely. Jourova also pointed out that X has the highest ratio of misinformation and disinformation, followed by Facebook.
It's worth remembering, this is part of the EU's attempt to keep large platforms in check and curb disinformation issues. This 200-page report reviews all the preparatory work done by major platforms in anticipating the DSA, including Facebook and others' efforts to combat Russian propaganda and hate speech.
Absolutely, Tom. While we're on this topic, Jourova specifically called out Russia's ongoing campaign to sow dissatisfaction with democratic systems. She claimed that the Russian state has engaged in the war of ideas to pollute our information space with half-truths and lies. It's an all-out information war going on out there.
Speaking of wars, we also have the war of counters in terms of how many fake accounts these platforms have been removing. LinkedIn's owner, Microsoft, prevented 6.7 million fake accounts from being created, while Google-owned YouTube removed more than 400 channels linked to Russian state-sponsored operations. Quite the figures.
Pinteresting, isn't it? TikTok removed nearly 6 million fake accounts and even flagged 410 unverifiable adverts. Google yanked advertising from approximately 300 sites related to state-funded propaganda and rejected upwards of 140,000 political advertisers for flunking identity verification.
These are big numbers. But with great power comes great responsibility and billion-dollar boomerangs, as I like to call them. Because Meta, formerly known as Facebook, found that 37% of its users stopped sharing content after being notified it was false. This indicates that users do, to some extent, value truth in the content they share.
The EU is particularly concerned about the continuous Russian propaganda, especially leading up to elections. And with the European Parliament elections coming up next year, there is a definite risk of disinformation. Jourova has highlighted that the Kremlin's propaganda is a multi-million-euro weapon of mass manipulation, not only directed at Russians, but also Europeans and the rest of the world.
Real-life impacts of virtual wars indeed. While the Ukraine war was a hot propaganda topic, the platforms also reported hate speech related to migration, LGBTQ+ communities, and the climate crisis, further proving how far-reaching and diverse the tentacles of disinformation can be.
And here's another sad reality. Disinformation actors on Twitter, according to Jourova, have significantly more followers than their non-disinformation counterparts, and tend to have joined the platform more recently, making disinformation a relatively newer phenomenon.
So lo and behold, Elon Musk, you better be ready to comply with the EU's disinformation regulation. We started with a tech titan being called out by the EU, and we're ending with the concept that disinformation is turning the virtual world into a distorted mirror of reality. But with platforms actively fighting back, there's hope for a safer digital space. Don't forget, folks, sharing is caring, but share carefully.
Fantastic point, Tom. On that note, we're wrapping up this week's episode of Hear the Web. Stay tuned, stay informed, and let's help keep our web clean of disinformation.